You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lineup for y'all. Today, we are going to talk to a author, Colleen Faul. She has an amazing book that we're going to be discussing today. And man, go to the website. The website is easy to remember. It's godspreciousgift.com. And that's what the book is all about. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you, Colleen, to the show and say how you doing.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Appreciate you taking time to be here. So what inspired you to write this book, and kind of tell us about your daughter, because your daughter Grace is kind of the focal point about this.
Yes, she is. So my daughter, like you said, her name is Grace. She's 19 months old now, but when she was 5 months old, we found out that she was experiencing something called infantile spasms, which is a very rare and serious form of epilepsy. And when we found out about that, they admitted us to the hospital, and they started doing a whole bunch of tests. And what infantile spasms is basically it means that she was having hundreds of seizures a day in clusters happening like seconds apart. So she'd be having a seizure over and over and over again. And once they found out about that, they brought us into the hospital. And once they did some more tests, they also found out that it wasn't just infantile spasms that she was dealing with. She also had a rare genetic disorder called Tuberous Sclerosis complex. And what that is it's a genetic disorder that is basically the gene in my daughter's DNA that is responsible for regulating cellular growth. It has a mutation on it, and so it's malfunctioning. And so she's going to end up having these random growths of cells that can show up anywhere in her body that materialize in the form of benign, non-cancerous tumors that show up all over the place. And the tumors themselves are non-cancerous, but depending on where they show up and how many there are and how big they grow, they can cause real health problems. And that is something that she's going to have to be dealing with her entire life. There's no cure for it. So we found out about these two very serious and rare conditions. She turned 6 months old in the hospital. And so she's 19 months old now. And so it's been a little over a year since then. But in all of that, I'm a very faithful person. So I definitely started turning to prayer and to God and started having some very honest conversations with God while I was trying to deal with this new reality that was now my life, that my daughter was sick and that she was going to have all of these health complications and developmental delays and medical needs that we hadn't been planning on and that we didn't know were going to be part of the equation for us, and having to adjust to the new idea, the new understanding of who our child could grow up to be. And a lot of things that most parents just take for granted that they're going to be able to, that their child is going to be able to grow up and do things like walking and talking and having a conversation with you one day and growing in maturity. And like we all of a sudden were in the position of not being able to take any of that for granted. We didn't know if she was going to learn to ever walk or talk. We didn't know what her maturity level would ever develop to be. And we still don't, in a lot of senses, know the answers to a lot of those questions. Time will tell. So I was just spending a lot of time in prayer and trying to adjust to our new reality. And in the cloud that I was kind of thrown into, I don't want to say that I was like, no, I think an accurate word was that I think I was grieving. I wasn't necessarily grieving a death, but I was grieving a life that we wouldn't get to live, that I had thought we were going to be able to. And so in that grieving process, I started praying, and I think God gave me the idea for this book as an answer to my own prayer. It's a children's book. It's called God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child. And the story is it's about a mom and a dad who find out that they have a child with a difficult diagnosis. And it's very vague language in the book so that it can apply to just about anybody. They find out that their child is going to be a very special child who has needs that most other kids won't have. And in the book, the parents are worried about this and they take this to prayer, and Jesus actually comes and answers them. And so the parents and Jesus in the book start having this conversation. And Jesus basically says to them, because they're praying, God, please fix our baby. We don't want this for her. And he says, fix your baby, but she's already exactly the way I chose to make her. And I wasn't thinking of any of the things that ended up getting written down in the book, which is why I think God inspired it, because I wasn't thinking this stuff ahead of time. But Jesus helps the parents come to understand that, no, I didn't make your child like this as a mistake. This wasn't an oversight or a punishment to you. I gave her to you this way as a gift. She is a gift, and she is going to be an avenue of my grace for you. And she, taking care of her, is going to be your pathway to heaven that I have prepared especially for you. And the parents have all these concerns. They're not sure if they're up for this job of taking care of this child. They're not sure that they are enough of what their daughter needs. And Jesus calms their fears, saying, hey, I knew that this child was going to be yours before you were ever even born. And I have been preparing you to be her parents for your entire life. You are exactly what your daughter needs. And I gave her to you because you are exactly the parents that she will need to thrive. And so it's a beautiful book. And I know I'm biased, but I think it's wonderful. And I have had so many amazing reactions and feedback saying that this book has been so comforting to so many parents of children with special needs, that it either is exactly what they needed to hear or just affirmed what they already knew, that their child was a gift. And it's just been this beautiful reception since getting it published last month of just there's just been this overwhelming positivity. And I think it's something that every parent, every family that has a member of it who has special needs should read this. I think it's a beautiful message. And that's my long-winded way of answering your question of what was the inspiration for the book. It was my experience with my own daughter. That's what inspired it.
We're talking to Colleen, and you are really helping families know that, yes, it's hard to have these certain news to come, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel. There's still hope. So with your experience, what you had to deal with your daughter and her special needs, how has that allow you to kind of look at positive opportunities versus looking and only seeing the negatives?
Well, I think it's been beautiful. I know that when my daughter was when she first got her diagnoses, I was definitely seeing things from a very dark perspective. And I was just focusing on all the things that in my mind she was being deprived of, all of the things that our family by extension was going to be deprived of, and how our life wasn't going to be quote unquote normal. And then with time and healing and prayer, I started realizing, and this is in a lot of ways verbalized very simply in this book, of just there is so much opportunity for grace here. And no, my daughter is not, it's ironic that we called her Grace because there's so much grace in this whole situation. It's ironic that I was seeing it as her being deprived, but in the time since that, she has grown and blossomed. We've had to do a lot for her. We've had to get her into therapies, and she's had to be seen by specialists, and she's had to get on medicine. And so there's a lot of stuff that is new to our life that's just going to be a part of her life. But it has been such an opportunity. It's through this that we have gotten to know our daughter for who she really is. We've gotten to see how beautiful a child with special needs, what a light that is to the world, just a source of unfiltered joy she is. She is just unadulterated joy in everything that she does. And she just brings smiles into the room everywhere she goes. And it's inspired me to become an author. It's inspired me to publish my own book and to spread this message of hope and of healing to other families. And it's also become an opportunity. I've started a sort of grassroots type of mentorship for other parents of children with special needs, parents who have children who are first getting diagnosed. And I've mentored a few parents now through that whole process of just, hey, I know exactly how you feel. I've been in your shoes and I'm here with you. I'm here to pray for you. And I get how you feel. And trying to encourage them to advocate for their children's needs with the doctors. And it's become an opportunity to spread God's love and to spread this message of hope through this book. And it's become a great opportunity to just bring a positive source of light into this world that never would have happened if my daughter hadn't gotten diagnosed. It never would have happened if our daughter had been born, quote unquote, normal. Like, it's been such a beautiful, transformative journey, this whole thing.
And when you mentioned about mentoring parents, when you have the opportunity to talk to them and listen to their stories of their situation, what are some of the things that they share with you that you kind of see as a common thread with parents who have to deal with this?
Common threads. There's a couple. A big one is the grief. There's this, I definitely experienced this, and I've heard this from pretty much every other parent I've spoken to. There's this grieving process of the life that you thought was going to be yours, this life, these hopes and dreams for your child that you didn't even necessarily realize you had until you realized that they were no longer an option, or that the scenario had been changed. There's a grieving process for the life you thought you were going to live. And you go through all 5 stages, the anger, the bargaining, the denial, all that. And that's okay. I mean, I think it's a fair reaction. I think it's a fair response because your life is different. Your life has been completely changed and turned upside down, and the future that you thought you were going to have is no longer there. But that doesn't mean that there's not still a beautiful future ahead of you. But the one that you thought you were going to have is gone, and it's okay to grieve it. So that's definitely a common thread. There's a common thread of not feeling up to the task of caring for this child who has so many special needs. And it's like, a child with special needs, someone has to fill those needs, and it's going to fall on the parents. And so there's a big responsibility there. And especially when it comes as a surprise, there's a self-doubt that is very common. And so I try to be very encouraging and to remind, especially for the ones who are people of faith, to remind them, God is in this and he has given you the grace that you need, and you are exactly what your child needs. He gave them to you for a reason. And then I think another common thread is, I find this in about half of the people that I've encountered, is a timidness when it comes to advocating for your child with medical professionals. There are some parents who have no problem with this. They're kind of I've met a few moms who are just kind of like bears, mama bears, and they shout and they do what they need to do to make sure that to make sure that their children get what they need. And then there's other parents who feel like, you know what, these doctors went to school for years and years. They know so much more than I do. So they must be right, whatever they say, and whatever their approach is. I have this weird feeling in my gut that maybe something else should be done, but they went to school. They must know better than I do. And I have universally tried to encourage those parents that no, here's the thing. These doctors did go to school. They're very smart and they're here to help as much as they can. But their job is to analyze and to advise. You are the one in charge. And there is no greater expert in the world on your child than you. That makes you the most valuable expert in the room. And if your gut is telling you, no, this isn't the right approach, you should do something else, then you have a right to tell the doctors, no, I don't agree. I want you to try some other avenue. I want you to try some other approach. And that is perfectly fine. And I would encourage you to do that, because if I hadn't done that with my daughter, they originally, I took her to several medical professionals, and before she ever got diagnosed, they tried to brush off her behaviors as that she was fine. And I had to fight really, really hard and advocate really hard to get her tested immediately. And I'm so glad that I did, because if I had waited on them to, like they wanted me to do, who knows what further damage would have been caused to my daughter from all the seizures she would have kept on having. So that those are the common threads that I have found in my mentorship that I've noticed.
You're listening to I'm Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Colleen Faul, and her book, God's Precious Gift, A Special Needs Child. You can go to the website, godspreciousgift.com. Again, that's godspreciousgift.com. And now you have this platform where you are not just sharing your story, but you just illustrated moments ago, you're an advocate, you're helping getting the word out. And how has that been received by just people in your local community and maybe even doctors, if you had any feedback from doctors?
Well, in my local community, for like the parents that I have spoken to, it's been universally received with great positivity. They've been there's been a lot of agreement and a lot of thank you for saying that. I needed to hear that. That's the encouragement I needed, kind of thing. So that has been wonderful. And the doctors I have spoken with, for the most part, they have been the doctors that are in charge of the care of my own daughter. And they have been encouraging too. They have, kind of shared that, yes, like, we are trying, like we as medical professionals, we are always doing our best to try to serve our patients, but we're human and we miss things. So if you have an instinct that is telling us, no, we should look into something more, we want that input. That input is important to us. And with that can help us refocus our lens on things and can help us treat and care for your child better. So from the medical professionals, I've actually received a lot of positive feedback as well. So I think it's all around been very, very good. I've never tried to in any way, villainize or demonize medical professionals. They are here to be a wonderful healing force in this world. But they need help as much as anyone else. They're human. So they need as much information and as much encouragement as they can get.
And also the book is about God. So your faith, how has faith helped you throughout this whole process?
I don't think I would be here without it. My faith has been just pivotal. It's been the anchor of everything that I've gone through well, I've not just since my entire life. I've been very blessed to have a strong faith life for my entire life, but especially in the last year since this has all begun, I can honestly say that finding out that my child has these two conditions was the scariest experience of my life. And it is only with through the lens of faith, through the lens of there is a good and loving God who has a will that is for your welfare and not for your woe. It is only through that understanding that I was able to make sense of any of this. It is only through that understanding that I'm able to grasp the concept of redemptive suffering, that anything that goes wrong in this world makes any sense at all, that it's allowed, it's helped to bring calm to the chaos that would have been there otherwise, is the role that faith has played, I would say.
Yeah, that's good. Calm to the chaos. That's real good. When you experience that calm, still life happens. So even
Mm-hmm.
to today, life still happens for our listening audience. Even though life still happens, and we almost like feel like a roller coaster. Sometimes days are amazing, then other days are a little bit tough. How have you and your family keep that focus that we'll get through this also, and we'll continue to take it one day at a time?
That's a really good question. Just how do we keep from getting stuck? I think one of the biggest blessings and biggest curses and biggest blessings is that life does keep going on. And the really beautiful thing is that our kids our kids keep growing, and our kids keep moving on, and they need us. My kids need me to be here for them. They need me to be their mom. And I think a big thing that helps keep me from getting stuck is necessity. And it's a very, very loud and demanding and very palpable demand in the form of a little person right in front of me saying, "Mommy, I need you. Mommy," that's how I keep from getting stuck, because I can't afford to get stuck. My kids need me. And that love for my children is what drives me on, is what motivates me. And that I think the thing that keeps me from getting stuck is the motivation to keep moving forward. And the thing that motivates me is my children, and just the love that we have in our family, and the needs that my daughter has, the needs that my son has. I have two children. They're 17 months apart, so they're both very young. And my oldest is 3 years old. My daughter is now 19 months old. So I've got two toddlers, and they are here. And I have the motivation to care for them and to be the best that I can for them, even when I don't necessarily feel like my best is very much. They deserve all of it, and they need what I have to give. And what I don't have to give, God supplements the rest. So that's how I keep from getting stuck.
Talking to Colleen Faul and talking about her book, God's Precious Gift. And you can go to the website, godspreciousgift.com. For our listeners, what's the best way they can reach out to you, and where can they get this awesome book?
You can get all of it on my website, godspreciousgift.com. On my website, there's a place where if you find yourself in the position of, I have a child who's been recently diagnosed, or I have been recently diagnosed myself, or you just need to talk to somebody. This is a free service, by the way. I don't charge for that, for mentorship, but that's something that you can reach out for through my website. There, you can buy the book on my website. For those of you who may want to buy it elsewhere, it's also available on Amazon. but there's all kinds of information about me and my daughter and the book and mentorship and all kinds of stuff on the website. So I really encourage people to go and check it out.
In the book, there is plans for the future of it being published in Spanish version too. Is that, if that's
Yes.
the case, you have some idea maybe how long that might take in the future?
Well, it's being translated now, and then it needs to get edited, and then the illustrations need to have the wording changed. So actually, I'm hoping once it's done getting translated, it should go pretty quickly. I'm hoping to have it published in Spanish in the next, I don't know, in the next month or two, possibly March. It should be coming out, I'm hoping. It should be coming out and ready to go in Spanish on Amazon and on my website.
Perfect. So go to that website, godspreciousgift.com. And once again, I want to say thank you to Colleen Faul for taking time to talking to us today.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful being here.